So this is my first week of my devlog for the level mechanics assignment. I think I'm just gonna record these videos every week. I think at the end of the week, because obviously I'll have a lot done then, so I can just go over everything I've done. So this is the end of the first week, and just showing everything I've done. So for this first week, I worked on a AI, a zombie, having the zombie chase the player, spawn in, using a model from Mixamo and an animation from Mixamo. So if I just start the game and I walk around a bit, I wait a few seconds for the zombie to spawn, just to give the player a few seconds to like walk around. I set up a few spawners. I set up one in this room, one here, one here. Oh, well, there they are. As you can see, they run around like this. They have a walking animation and a attack animation. So they're just like that. They swing on the player. Obviously, they still move when they for the attack, and they hit the player. Game ends. This is also a main menu I quickly whipped up. But oh, some errors. Let's fix that. But that's how a zombie works in game. They just run after the player. They spawn. They can swing on the player, and right now it's just the player just dies. Simple as that. Just kills the player. So for the movement, get the movement to work. Normally I would just go into the event graph of the AI, and I've still used like obviously character movement, and like I have a health component here that I'm gonna set up later to do damage to the zombies, and so they can have like an actual damage variable to the player. But over here is where, yeah, this is the blackboard, so the behavior tree. So obviously we start at the root, and then there's a selector, and it's whether they chase the player or attack the player. And if I just click on, no, not new blackboard. Can I just double? There we go. So it receives the execute AI, and obviously it casts the first person characters. That's what it's chasing. Gets the player character for the reference, and also the control pawn is what's controlling it. Target actor is the player character. That's what it's moving to. This radius is to like have how close the zombie can get to the player. So it's like the zombie can stop a bit closer than normal, but not too close to the point where the zombie's kind of in the player, and then that can cause a lot of issues with the player might not be able to kill the zombie, or the player can't like attack, or just can't even move. So, but on success, finishes it, and on fail, it finishes it. So either way, it's either gonna get up to the player and do an attack, or it's gonna fail. It's just gonna keep chasing the player. But that's for chasing the player. If I go back to this one, which is attacking the player, I set up an animation that I got off of Mixamo. And obviously we cast the zombie. The target mesh is the skeletal mesh. So obviously I've got the physics, the skeleton, and the mesh there for the zombie. But it gets that, and on completed, it finishes the execute, which is a swing animation, which I set up in here. We have some animations. There's a zombie idle for when they spawn in, and then there is the walking animation and the punching animation. So what I did for the punching animation was obviously make a anim montage, and I've set up a hit notify here from a tutorial I followed. And normally when I would do damage in previous projects, I normally set it up in blueprints, where just like you use like event any damage, and then it adds damage to the player through using like a collision box. It still uses a collision box, but this is more refined in a way, I guess, as you can use the animation to like pinpoint a certain amount of damage in the animation, so like for a few seconds. Whereas before, when I would set up damage using an event any damage, the zombie would do damage throughout the entire event, so it could do like multiple hits in a second, which was an issue in other projects. I think on the first time I tried setting up zombies to damage on the last year, the player would die in like 1.5, not even 1.5 seconds, like 0.5 seconds, because as soon as a zombie touches them, that collision box on them is constantly doing damage instead of being told when to do damage through this animation here. So obviously when the zombie swings, zombie damage, and then it stops swinging, stops doing damage. So that's set up for when health is added into the game, so I can use this, bring it over, and then notify the game when to do damage to said player using that blueprint health component I've set up. I haven't got around to that yet, but I've set it up for now. I think that's what I'm probably going to work on next. But that is how that's the animation for the zombie. That's the notify. That's the hitting animation. If I go back over to the walking animation. I did have 2, or 3 here technically, but I'm pretty sure I went with, yeah, this one, just like a stumbling zombie. And obviously that's the animation itself, but you have to set it up in the animation blueprint. So I used, movement caches, and this specifically the upper body. Using this upper body slot, as you saw when the zombie was attacking the player. Without this, when the zombie would swing, because the animation for swinging doesn't have any leg movement, the zombie would stand still, and it looks very awkward, very janky, and obviously gives the player a chance to kind of back away. Like, it makes the game a little bit easier, because the zombie's just going to stand there. So using this, it blends the 2 animations together, so when the zombie does swing, as you saw in game, it kind of freezes the bottom half, or I guess cuts off the 2 halves of the animation, and adds the walking animation, so the zombie can still swing and walk towards the player for that, I guess, extra, like, fluidity, in a way. It's not the best, obviously, but it works in a way so that the zombie's always chasing the player, instead of just stopping, going, and just it makes the game a bit more fun, makes it a bit more refined. But that's for the animations. Is there anything? Oh, the spawning in the zombies. So the spawner. This looks very big and complicated. It's not. It was simple of just when I first did it throughout the week, first did the spawner, none of these were here. I just got the active location and rotation. But then I realized I can only have one spawner. Only one spawner was working. Following this tutorial I was watching. So I looked around on YouTube a bit to see how other people set up spawners. I looked at my own work as well, as I set up spawners in the past where having multiple enemies spawned. And the conclusion I came to is if I use multiple scene components and add them in to a switch using a random integer, I can have the zombies spawn at different locations throughout the game. So again, it looks kind of messy. I'm gonna have to clean this up because of all these lines going through. But what it does, uses a custom event spawn, which checks if it's valid itself, and then on the int it picks a random int from 1 through 8, gets every scene component that is available, checks if it's valid again. I ran into some errors. That's why I have these whenever we're playing. It wouldn't break the game, but after like testing the game, it would sometimes give me an error of like just saying it's not valid, even though the zombie spawned in, which is very odd. But checks if it's valid, gets the AI zombie from class, and then uses one of these many locations, well, including the zombie spawn location, to spawn the player in, and then just checks if it's valid again. But that's how the spawn works. Just picks one of the 8, I've set them up throughout the map. And one last thing I set up as well was the game mode for the zombies, and this is using round increase to increase the health. So there's a bit here, plus some extra stuff I tried to work on that didn't work. I spent like maybe 2 hours trying to work on this. If I see all of this at the end, I couldn't get it to work. It's basically trying to save the high round, like keep the high round as a not like a leaderboard, but every time you play the game and go back to the main menu, no, every time you load back into the game, sorry, it would say your high round in like the corner, and then your current round in the bottom. And I wanted to try to set that up, and I messed around with it for a bit, but I just couldn't get it to work, so that's scrapped for now. I'll go over it in a second, but basically, if we start with increase round, so it uses the variable spawned all zombies, and then adds the round number, and then using health variables I've set up. I'm not sure if these work yet, as I haven't worked on the player to see like how much damage the player can do. So I'm gonna have to test if these work next week once the player is set up with like weapons and stuff. But it's gonna basically multiply the zombie's health after round 10, but until round 10, it just adds 100 onto the zombie's health, clamps it to a max value so it doesn't go like too far. Like the zombie's health will cap at a certain point, and then sets that as the new max health. There's a delay in between rounds, so just give the player some breathing time, and then starts a new round. Checks the branch. So like, oh yeah, this is for checking. This was going to be for checking what the highest round is, like save it. But obviously this didn't work. But it was going to check what the highest round was. If it was greater than or equal than 0, so obviously it'd be a new high round. Set the new high round, and then it's going to use a slot name for a new save game. Have a branch. If the save game exists, if a save slot exists, then you'd load the save game using the slot name, save it, cast to a save game high round, which was a blueprint I made, but it didn't work. And then it was set that as a new high round, and then that would be your new high round. Or it failed, you'd create a new save game, and then create a new high round. But again, it didn't work. I really wanted it to work, because it'd be nice to just kind of have like a little record to beat every time you played, but I couldn't really just get it to do what I wanted it to do, so I just had to scrap it. But this is for starting a round. This calculates how many zombies are in the round. This is very similar to the way Call of Duty Zombies does it, specifically I think in the older games, like World at War and Black Ops 1. So it gets the round number, and it multiplies that by 0.15, and then it multiplies that number by the max zombies in a level, which is 24. So then it gets the round. If it's false, then it just adds to the total zombies around. But if it's true, then it's just six zombies in the round, and we start on round 1. So round 1 goes from, it's just 6 zombies. That's how it starts, and every round it uses this formula to add more zombies, like in the older games. So then that is total zombies in the round, set by timer event. This is for the spawning, so time in between each spawn is about 2 seconds. Just for now, not too fast, not too slow, I hope, but I haven't really messed around with testing it yet. But that is for, like, that's the spawn zombie event. And down here we have a branch for spawning the zombie. It checks if zombie spawned is greater than total zombies in the round. If yes, it gets all that to the class, which is a zombie. It gets the number of items in the array, so how many zombies. Checks if the number of zombies is greater than or equal to the max zombies in a level. If it's true, gets the actors out of spawn, the zombie spawn that I showed you. Gets an array from there to see how many there is, and then spawns those zombies along with setting up some health for them for the future. And then I think this was also, what was this? Where did this? And then if this is false as well, it clears the timer, and it sets zombie spawn to 0, and spawn all zombies. So that's for the end of the round. But I'm pretty sure that is everything for the zombies at this point. Went over the blackboard, went over the. Wait, did I go over this? The controller. Oh, the controller. This uses the behavior tree for the zombie, and checks. Oh yeah, this is for the attacking. So this is for the animation I showed you. If the zombie is in range, so the range, they get the distance to the player character, that's the other actor, and checks how far the control point is, which is obviously the zombie. And if that is 100 less than 125, then the zombie can perform the animation, which is the attack animation. So just adding a little, I guess, range indicator to let the AI know when you should attack, when you shouldn't attack, so they're not just swinging constantly while seeing the player, which would look really, really off. But I think that is all for this week. Just setting up zombies, setting up a health system that I can use when I get around to the player. I think the player is what I will work on for the next week. Just like having the player, will obviously be there, setting up weapons for him, maybe health if I can get around to it, but mainly focusing on player weapons. So like doing damage, shooting, reloading. Having 1 or 2 guns maybe just spawn with, and possibly doing damage if I have time. But for first week this is going alright. Zombies spawning, AI chases you and can swing at you. I'm feeling confident with this project, with this assignment. I think it can go really well. But that is all for the first week.